Okay, so in the last class about research methodology, we saw what is research, concept of research, and the various types of research with certain examples. So moving on from that, today we are going to discuss about the various research methods. So starting from historical research method. Okay. So before going into historical research method, you need to understand the difference between research method and research methodology. So the both these terms look similar, but they are not same actually. So most of the people get confused about these two terms. There is a difference between research method and research methodology. You see, the word in the word methodology, it is a combination of two words, method plus ology. So ology typically refers to a discipline of study. Okay, it typically refers to a discipline of study or a branch of knowledge. Okay, so the technically speaking, methodology means study of methods. Okay, so we will see what research method and research methodology is all about and what is the difference between them. Okay, so coming to research method, in research method we simply mean the technique, research technique or tool used for conducting a research. Simple as that. Okay. In research method, in what method you are conducting the research? Let it be historical, let it be survey, or let it be observation or experimental, whatever it may be. What method, right? Only the emphasis is given here only on the method or technique, method or technique. Okay. See, the methods, these methods can be grouped into three broad categories. The first group consists of methods dealing with collection and description of data. How are you collecting the data? Either by going through interview or questionnaire or observation or whatever it may be. What is the method you used for collecting data and how you are describing it? The second group consists of technique used for establishing a statistical relationship between variables. Right. So after collecting the data, there will be certain numbers, right? You might have got data from 50 male students, 50 female students. Let's take male as one variable and female as another variable. Okay. So what statistics you are going to, what method of statistics you are going to use for that particular set of data? So this comes under the second group of method, right? So the third group deals with methods that is used to evaluate the reliability, validity and accuracy of the result discerned by the data. So after collecting the data, after doing the statistical analysis, and you have to establish reliability and validity. Okay. So these are the three groups of research methods. Okay. So for example, you see a physical scientist may employ, for example, tools such as electron microscope, radio telescope to obtain his data. For his data like physics observation, he needs some telescope microscope. Similarly, for social scientists, I use a technique like opinion poll or survey in the sense questionnaire or whatever it may be, with a mail questionnaire. So these are the tools. These are the method that using the questionnaire is a method for collecting the data. Using telescope is a method for collecting the data for physical scientists, right? I hope you understand what method is all about. Okay. So now we are coming to research methodology. So whenever we choose a research method, we must justify why we prefer this particular method over the other. The methodology seeks to answer the question. So in a common simple sense, I have used questionnaire, I have used Google Forms to collect my data. Okay. But there are other ways to collect data also, right? There are other methods to collect data also, right? I can talk with you, I can interview you and collect the data. I can go by person and collect the data. I can just observe and collect the data. But why did I use Google Form? See, we must justify. I must justify Google Form is better for this research to collect the data. So that kind of justification comes under research methodology. So research methodology is a broader concept. So research method is a subset of research methodology. That means research method is a part of research methodology. As I said earlier, ology means study. Okay, science of study. So methodology in the sense is study about methods. Okay. So research method becomes a part of research methodology. You see, so when we speak of research methodology, we not only talk research methods, but also keep in view about the logic and justification behind the method. Okay. Now we not only talk, we in research method we can just say we used Google form to collect data. In research methodology we will say why we used Google forms. There are other methods also available now. Why we used Google forms? That in the broader sense, okay, that in the broader sense, to give the justification and rationale, that is all. That is what research methodology is all about. Okay, a researcher's methodology aims at answering questions such as why was this particular group of people interviewed, not the other group? Why? It answers questions. Why this people was interviewed? Why didn't you go and select other people? Okay, if you are selecting a college, if you are selecting a study of library usage in Central University of Punjab, you are selecting only science department students. Why you didn't select art department students? You have to give your justification. You should say why you didn't choose. So there must be some rationale behind the reason for not choosing. But that reason you need to give. So that comes under the part of research methodology. Okay, how the research problem has been defined. Okay, it not only talks about methods, it also talks about other aspects of research only. How did you frame this problem? What is the research gap? Okay, like that. How many individuals provided answers on which research conclusions were based? So you let me say you conducted a survey of 250 students. So out of that only 200 or 150 answered. So how many answered and why other didn't answer? So based on what basis you concluded your research? Why these particular techniques were used? There are many techniques available. Why you chose only this technique? So these kind of answers, these kinds of questions, it seeks answer to. So research methodology comes in the broader aspect of how the research is overall conducted, whereas research method deals only with the method use. Let it be method used to collect the data or whatever it may be, right? Collect the data and interpret the data and validate the data. 3 groups we saw, right? So I hope you understand the difference between research methods and research methodology. So you see this after learning the concepts of both, you see the difference. Its research method seeks to answer what did the researcher use to complete his research. I used Google form to collect data. I used what do you say? I used variables such as gender and male and female, and I used statistical techniques such as mean, median, mode, or inferential, or whatever statistics it may be, and I used reliability and validity to establish. Just it, simple. That is a research method. See, in research methodology, how did the researcher complete the study? So, research method is only a portion, only discussing about the method part, whereas research methodology seeks to answer about the overall portion of the research, right? There are techniques. Research methods are the techniques and tools by which you do a research on a particular topic, right? Methodology justifies the technique. As I told you, research method is I chose Google Forms. Research methodology asked why did you choose Google Form? Simple. Research method involves stacks of conducting experiment test surveys. Okay. Research methodology involves learning of various techniques to conduct research and acquiring knowledge to perform tests. Research methodology will help you that, for this particular study, survey will be best. For this particular study, Google Forms will be best. So research methodology will help you to understand, gain knowledge, right? The research method aims at finding solution to research problem. Ensures the employability of correct procedure. See the difference. The research method only gives you collect data, you do statistics, you do analysis, and you present findings, right? But research methodology tells you about the correct procedure of doing the data. Just like that, you cannot collect data. There are certain procedures to frame a questionnaire or whatever it may be. So when you know about the research methodology, you will know what are the procedures. It helps you to learn the correct procedure to solve the problems, right? Research methods are at the end of any scientific or non-scientific research. Research method are usually at the end of any research, right? Because after the literature review comes, the method and analysis comes. Okay, that is usually at the end. Whereas methodology paves the way to choose appropriate research methods and thus the beginning of any research. So for this particular research, any question, how to improve the users coming to the library, how to maximize the users coming to the library. So that is the question you have. That is a research question you have. So research methodology helps you to identify the particular method for solving the problem of that particular question. So I hope you understand the difference between research method and research methodology. So research methodology is a broader term, right? It paves everything all about, it is an overall concept of research, whereas research method is a subset. That means it's a part of research methodology. Okay. So don't confuse these two terms because these two are different. Okay, they should not be used together. Okay, they are different. So that's why I want to introduce you about these concepts, because this is very important, right? So with this, we just move on to our today's topic, that is historical research, right? So what is history? We all know what is history, right? The study of past and how it particularly relates to human, right? It is an umbrella term that relates to past events as well as the memory, discovery, collection, organization, and presentation and interpretation of information about these events. Like Columbus discovered America. How did he find the way to locate America? So these are the questions. It dwells into the past, and it interprets and gives information about the past events. So usually in common sense, history deals with past, and we all know that, right? So coming to historical research. So what do you mean by historical research actually? So we know what is history and what is historical research. It is a systematic. I have told you what is the meaning of systematic and scientific. Systematic and scientific in the sense that it is a step-by-step procedure. Okay, it is just not going through, like you have to go from step 1 to step end, right? It is a systematic in the sense it should be step by step. There are certain rules. Systematic collection and evaluation of data to describe, explain, and thereby understand action of events that occurred sometime in the past. So you are collecting data in systematic way, and you are also evaluating the data to describe what are the events and what are the actions that have happened in the past. So for example, if you are taking a historical study about library science in education, origin of library science, history of library science education in India, in the sense you have to go systematically. Where did the first library science school started? School in the sense degree college started, and which university was first providing BLISC course, like that, or CLISC course. You have to do a systematic way of collecting data, and then you have to describe it to interpret the events occurred from the historical point of view, right? No manipulation or control of variables, no manipulation and control of variables. In the sense, I have in the types of research, I already told you about experimental research, right? So there will be controlled group and experimental group. In history, there is nothing like that. It just focuses only on the past events. Okay, so we will see what are the different views of historical research, right? So according to Nietzsche, the views Nietzsche, he is one of the, what do you say, he is one of the critics, historical critics. That means he gives his opinions about historical studies. Criticism means he gives criticism. He gives his opinions about historical studies, and because of him, the expression historical sickness came out. Okay, the expression historical sickness came out based on his critics. So what are the views of other people? Other people believe that we can never truly understand the events in the past, in the sense that evidence from the past are questionable. So most of the people believe like this, because we are not there in the past, right? We believe only data which is available in the resources, such as books or whatever it may be, such as documented records, and most of the things are not documented. Even today we don't know how pyramid was formed. Pyramid was constructed in Egypt. So so most of the people say that we can never truly understand what happened in the past. Okay, that is the general opinion about history based on most of the people, right? So what is the purpose? Now we are coming to the purpose of historical research. So what is the purpose is to make people aware of what has happened in the past, so that they may learn from the past studies, past failures and successes. Okay. So if you take, I will come to the same example. historical development of LIS education in India. So those who joined LIS, MLISC first year, those who are going to join first year, so the first semester this year, they don't know about the history, right? So when some researchers when some researcher can do a historical research on this topic, they will get to know, people will get to know, oh, LIS education started from this year, so now we are moved a long way. So it helps them to identify the facts, and also based on history, you can evaluate yourself, and you can learn from past failures and how to improve, but how to gain success. That is also possible, right? So test hypothesis concerning relationship and trends to assist in prediction. Based on history only, we can assist in prediction, right? So for example, last 5 matches, I'll give a simple example using cricket, right? Last 5 matches, Virat Kohli scored more than 50 in the last 5 matches. Okay. So coming to the history, so in the next 5 matches, we are predicting that he will be scoring more than 50 only. So based on history, we are predicting that may be true or may not be true, or depending upon his performance only. It is just a prediction, okay? It helps to predict. That is the main point here, right? So question pursued through historical research. What are the research questions you can pursue through historical research, right? So some of the questions are how the students were educated in the South during the Civil War, right? Civil War deals about history, right? So during that war time, Civil War time, how the students were educated, right? So this is one of the questions. So how have the working conditions for teacher changed since 1900? See the question from 1900, what is the working condition? So you have to analyze what is the working condition of teacher in 1900 and what is the working condition of teacher in 2020, and in between that what are the changes have come through. Okay, so this is the answer that seeks from this particular research question. So what was the instruction like in a typical 4th grade classroom in 100 years ago, right? From 100 years ago in 1920. So what was the instruction? How the teachers taught the 4th class students? So these kind of questions which dwells into the past are concerned with historical questions, right? So some example, what were the major discipline problems in schools in 1940 as compared to today? Okay, what were the discipline problems in schools? Obedience, how the obedience was monitored, how discipline was monitored in schools in 1940, and how the schools are monitoring discipline today. What are the problems of discipline today? So you are comparing the historical information from the present point of view, right? So moving on from questions, the next part is characteristics of historical research. So the first characteristic is historical research always aims for critical search of truth, right? Critical search, that means you are doing an exhaustive analysis. The aim of contemporary history is to conceptualize, contextualize, and historize. You have to concept it, and then you have to context, in the context, in which context it occurs. That concept occurs in which context. So this teaching method occurred in 1900. Technology came in 2000. In which context? And you are historizing it according to the timeline of events, right? There is no agreed definition of what time period constituted contemporary history has existed or can existed. So there is no proper definition of when this is existed and when this is as not. Based on the timeline of events and based on the records, they are just determining it, right? So next is first characteristic is it is not a mere accumulation of facts and data or even a portrayal of past events. Just you are presenting the data of past events is not a historical research actually, right? Mere accumulation of facts is that in 1900 library science example, I am saying it an example. In 1900 library science first library science degree was introduced. On 1901 first what do you say, in the 1902 first degree of library science introduced, then 1903 MLIS introduced. It is not like that. You are not just presenting the data, it is more than that. Okay, it is not that accumulation of facts or data or even a portrayal of past events. That is in the sense, it is not that you are presenting the data according to historical timeline. Just presenting a data in tabular form from history point of view is not historical research. Okay. Second is, it is a flowing, vibrant report of past events which involves an analysis and explanation of these occurrences. See here, you are not just presenting the data. In 1900, the first school was formed, and you are analyzing how the school was formed, and who was the teacher and what was the situation there, and 1901 how the situation improved, in 1910 how the situation improved, 20 how it came along, and 2000 you came along. You are not just presenting the data, you are just doing an analysis and presenting the explanation of those analysis, right? And how the history have evolved over a period of time with the objective of recapturing the nuisance, personalities and ideas that influence these events, right? So you are not only presenting the fact, data and the facts, you are doing an extensive analysis. What was the situation during that time? How the situation has developed over a period of time. So unless you do the analysis and present the data based on their occurrences, it is not historical research. Just presenting the data in tabular form is not research, right? So you have to do an exhaustive analysis. So third is conducting historical research involves the process of collecting and reading the research material collected, writing the manuscript from the data collected. That is true, right? So it involves the process of collecting and reading the research material. To understand how library science education was in 1900, you have to go back to 1900 to read. That in the sense, in the form of books, you have to go back to 1900, you have to read what was the origin there, you have to find authenticated sources, and you have to read a lot, and you have to compile your analysis according to the sequence of event, and then you have to write your manuscript based on the data collected. So the past, this is the flow chart of what do you say? This is the flow chart of historical research method, right? From the past, the researcher is reading from the past, he is getting source materials like relics, artifacts, stories, references, and the conclusions. What are the conclusions from the past? And source critic, what are the critics of those sources? So this is how it interrelates. So next is we have seen the characteristics. Now we are moving to what are the steps in historical research. So the first step is elusive subject matter. The past and peculiarly difficult task of interpretation, which is the elusive nature of the subject matter. That is right. The past, we are taking events only from the past because it is history, right? So, and the peculiarly difficult task of interpreting. Not only we are taking data from the past, from 1900 we are saying that library science education started, and we have to interpret it. How was the situation there? Who started it? And what was the scenario in 1900? That is a peculiarly difficult task. So when you are combining these two, that contributes to the elusive nature of the subject matter, right? So then you have to define the problem to describe clearly and accurately some aspect of the past as it related to education or schooling. Okay, you have to describe and define certain aspect to the past, right? Take a look one by one of the important motives of reason which caused you to doubt and get interested about certain gaps in knowledge in relation to past or experience. So based on exhaustive reading on historical problems, you will understand, you will get an idea about what happened this year. I didn't get data, what happened this year. So based on this, in the period you couldn't get what do you say, you could have certain doubts. In 1950 I couldn't understand the logic behind this. So based on that you can formulate your questions and identify the gaps available in this particular research method. So you have to define your problems based on these concepts, events or procedures, reading textbooks, curricula, institutions, whatever it may be. So this should be the focus for designing. These are the factors that should form the focus for defining your problem, right? You may limit your investigation to one era and one sequence of event in a logical and provisional or regional or national setting. That means you may limit. So I am not going to take from 1900 history. I want to study only a particular decade, in the sense 10 years. From 2000 to 2010, how the library education was there, right? So only a particular era, and one sequence, that too 2000 to 2010 library education in Punjab only, that too in a provisional, regional or national setting. It depends. Not India, only Punjab. 2000 to 2010, how the situation was in 2000 to 2010, and then 2011 to 20, depending upon that. Okay, comparison of events in different period. So like 2010 to 2010 one period, and 2011 to 2020 another period, right? So you are comparing how, whether the situation improved or whether the situation declined, depending upon the results, right? Examples: the schooling process in first grade, two samples a decade apart, right? A decade apart in the sense that 10 years, a gap of 10 years to the schooling process of first grade. First grade is first standard, right? Now, what is the schooling process of first standard, right? First standard, a decade apart, two samples a decade apart. That is 2000 to 2010, one decade, 2011 to 2020, another decade. Simple as that. So, they are comparing the schooling process for 2 decades, two samples. They are taking two samples. Simple. Origins of the modern social studies, right? How the modern social studies evolved. So, gathering of source material, varied evidences of the activities engaged by the people who lived in the past, right? If you want to know about the independence of India, if you go and see if anyone is who is alive, right? About the free, if any freedom fighter is alive during this time, if you go and talk to them, you will get information about how the situation was back then, right? Varying evidences of the activities by engaged in people who lived in the past, because that freedom fighter knows what is the situation before 1947, right? Because he has lived in the past and he is still alive now. So if you go and talk to him, he will definitely know. Historical source material, these are the source materials, right? Let it be documents, okay, historical documents, numerical records, statistics data, right? And oral statements, like as I told, if you are meeting a freedom fighter, oral record of that person, oral statements, records and relics, right? Relics is actually they preserve certain things, right? Let it be human relic or animal relic, like dinosaur bones, these bones and these what do you call, these are all relics only, okay? Or documents or written or printed material that are produced in some form of other. In Kannimara, I was working as, I want to give you an example for this. I was working as an intern in Kannimara during my MLASC period. I was working as an intern in Kannimara Public Library, Chennai, one of the oldest library, right? So this historical document, coming to that, you know East India Company, right? They came to India and they did some trades with India during that time, 1860s. So the East India submitted a report. Okay, East India submitted a report. That report is still available in the Kannimara Library. That is one of the oldest historical record. I have seen that record. It is very big book. Okay, it is very big book. It is still there in the Kannimara Library. That is the original source, primary source of that East India report. It may be published or unpublished, original works or copies. I just gave you an example of what is an historical document. That is the original East India report, right? Artworks, bills, books, cartoons, circulars, whatever it may be. So these are the types of documents. And numerical records. Coming to numerical records, any kind of numerical data in printed form, separate type of source or subcategory of document. And when you see the East India report, they will tell when they came. In 1860 we came, example, in 1870 they started trade, example I am saying. So that kind of numerical data presented in a separate book or what do you say, or in a printed form, that also you can take it, right? And test scores, attendance figures, report, census report in 1900, that is a numerical record, right? So oral statement, as I told about if you want to know about independence, you have to talk to the freedom fighter, right? Who is living in the present, who has lived in the past also. So oral statement, stories, their tales, their legends, chants, songs, whatever it may be. And records and relics. Relics, as I told you, any object whose visual characteristics can provide some information. To study the origin of dinosaurs, based on the relics only they are doing. Based on the bones, they can find out that when the archaeology department finds some, what do you say, some bones or some skeleton, they can identify from which generation it is. So that is a relic. Some skeleton is a relic. So dinosaur bone is a relic. So they might have, based on that only, based on their age studies only, they will say that, oh, this creature existed 200 years before. So that is a relic kind of that relics provide certain information, right? And furniture, artworks, monuments, historical monuments. Based on monuments, you can say, oh, this building was built in 1950. Like that, we can say, based on that monument, when you study that monument, right? And classification. What are the classification of historical researchers? We know what is the primary source, right? It is the source of best evidence, because primary source is always the original source, prepared by an individual who a participant was in or a direct witness to the evidence being described, right? I gave a good example regarding primary source, how Abhilash collected book by going to the library, because he was a direct witness. He was a direct witness of the primary source. He counted one by one. Whereas in the case of Ritesh, he referred only the database, opaque, because someone has done it. It may be wrong or it may be right. Primary source is the best evidence because you are directly there. Simple as that, right? Or information supplied by a person who was not a direct observer. In the case of opaque, right? Collecting details of library books through opaque is a secondary source because already the library team has collected the data and put it in the opaque. You are just seeing the opaque and downloading the file, right? So already someone has done. It may be right or it may not be right. You don't know because you are just depending on the system and someone has done the work, right? A document prepared by an individual who was not a direct witness. You are not a direct witness and the library staff was collecting the list of books. Okay, I hope you understand this. Primary and secondary. Deliberate sources is preserving information. In advanced sources is making accurate inferences to interpret the material. So making accurate inferences like how this thing has happened, right? Accurate inferences based on the data collected, right? So if you are saying library, our library is having only 100 books in library science means when compared to other subject, that is because you are making accurate. How will you make accurate inference for this? Because our library science department started only in 2019, right? So other departments like let it be economics or other departments, they started before itself. So they are having more than 5 to 6 years advantage over the library science department. So they might be having more than 500 to 600 books, whereas library science is having only below 100 books. So we cannot compare, right? So accurate inferences is because the library science department started 2019 only, the library started purchasing books for those department. So that is accurate inference based on data. So when you compare data, library science is 100, economics is having 200, 600 books means you cannot just say that economics is higher. Why it is higher? How will by library science is lower? You cannot criticize library for not giving importance to library science department for purchasing books. So you see, library science department started only in 2019, whereas economics started in 2013. This is for example. See the difference, right? 6 years difference. So they are accumulated, right? So based on the sources, inadvertent sources, you make correct, accurate inferences. That is very important. To present the inferences accurately is very important based on the data. Just the number alone won't help you. Okay, and how this number came, that accurate inferences is needed, right? And what are the criticisms of data? That there are two types, right? External and internal. Involves finding out if the source material is genuine and if it possesses textual integrity. And concerned, second is it concerned with the internal is concerned with the accuracy and meaning of the data contained in the document. External criticism is, for example, I am preparing a book. Simply, I am preparing a book of net examination. Right. What do you say? Net examination book for library information science. Am I a reliable author? Am I a good person to write this book? That is when you are analyzing from that point of view. Is the data given by me in that particular book is correct? Is it genuine? The source material, I have provided the source material. Is that genuine? That is external criticism. Concerned with the accuracy and meaning of data contained in the document. Whatever I have given in the text, is that actually correct? Is that source genuine? Because I have taken it from some original sources like net. Sometimes there might be printing errors and the source might be wrong also. Instead of 1910, I might have typed it as 1970. See, it gives it points out the questions about accuracy, right? So this is the difference between external, finding out the source material is genuine, and internal is inside the source, finding out the book whether this book is genuine. Can we what do you say? Can we believe this? And second one is what is the information provided in the book is genuine. That is internal. External and internal. I hope you understand. It is genuine. Who was the author? See, this is a good example, right? Is good and skates. Who was the author? What were his general qualification as a reporter? That is right. If I am writing a book, what is my qualification? Anyone can write a book, right? If I am writing a book on library science net examination, preparation for net examination for library science students, what is my qualification actually? Did they actually pass net? Do I know anything about net examination? Do I know anything about library science? That kind of questions if you are asking means that is external criticism. What is a special qualification, right? And disqualification as a reporter of the matters treated here. How soon after the events was the document written? How was the document written? How is the document related to other documents? So these are the questions you have to answer when you are trusting a document, right? These kind of questions when you are trying to seek answers to or refer to external kind of criticism. So what does it mean actually? What was the author attempting to say? What is the author trying to say in his book or his document? What was the thought was the author trying to convey? What inferences or interpretation could be extracted from the words? So based on the books or based on the research I conducted, these are the questions you should ask, right? Internal criticism. This is internal criticism, right? What is I'm saying? What is the content? It based on the content of the source, right? What was the author attempting to say? I am saying that I am providing a guidelines for how to prepare prepare for net examination for library science students and how to study based on certain materials. That is what I am trying to say. Is that reliable? What inferences and interpretation could be extract from the words? So what you can extract from by particular source, is the source genuine? So these kind of questions seeks to answer the internal criticism. So literal meaning and real meaning of statements. Words do not have the same meaning to all people, right? That is true. Literal meaning is different and real meaning is different. Competence over the observer. Test of truthfulness and honesty is the facts provided. What is the personal or vested interest of the author? To what race, nation, party, region, social level, economic group, or profession which might introduce elements of bias does the observer belong? Is the is the result provided with the honesty and truthfulness? These are the things you need to consider, right? So after the criticism part, we are coming to the writing part of historical research. So what is effective? Research should be historical. Any research should be written effectively, right? So working an outline on that. Guide the selection and arrangement of route. Whatever you have collected, you have to guide it and you have to arrange it according to the same time sequence or whatever it may be. Progress should employ a thesis as a theory of causation to explain the cause and effect relationship, right? There should be cause and effect. So this kind of study employed in 1900, schools employed and there were no building because they thought in the outside. So the cause, that is the cause, because there is no building, we need to come out. Simple as that. Today we have technology, we can sit at home and learn. So that is a cause and effect, right? You need to determine the cause and effect, just not that is just not stating the fact. And emphasis on major element, which was a revolution, right? 2000 technology became a revolution. Like that, we have to emphasis on major elements and major events. Art of narration and science of history. History is like a storytelling, right? You should write in a way, you should narrate in a way. Narration is like art, right? And literary art are essential, definitely. Dramatization, rhetoric and style should possess the characteristics of a good story. The story you are trying to convey in the form of research should possess good characteristics. It should not be boring. It should concise and present the events and also interpret the events as they come along with the past. And these are the strengths and limitations, right? What are the strengths? It is the only research method that can study evidence from the past. That is true. No other method can study evidence from the past. This method is the only method that can study because it is history, right? It can make use of a wider range of evidence than most methods. That is very true. In other methods, the methods are limited. Whereas historical research, there are lots of ranges to choose your methods. Okay, it has a lots of ranges to choose your evidences. Provides an alternative and perhaps a richer source of information on topics, right? It provides alternative, richer source. There is lots in library. You can take this origin of public libraries in India, origin of special libraries in India, history of library science education in India, whatever. See, you are having richer source of topics, information on topics. If you see the problem from a historical point of view. Limitations, that is disadvantages. The measures used in other methods of control for threats and internal validity is not possible. In experimental and statistical, we will use certain validity measures and reliability measures. That is mostly not possible in historical research. The possibility of bias, that is also a problem. Requires much more digging up good material. That is true. You cannot find the original source of history material, right? If you want to see the East India report, you have to go to the original report and find what they have written exactly that. Just because finding in the internet cannot be a good source sometimes, right? Because you cannot validate the genuinity, right? When you directly see the report, you can believe it. So you need to do a lot of digging up, right? Historical research can only give a fractional view of the point because you are not present in the history. You have to believe what the report or what the person is saying. Simply that only gives a fractional view. You cannot say what exactly happened, right? So some scholars contend the history requires a different method and interpretation because of elusive subject matter, right? Some scholars prefer like that, it requires a different approach. The absence of technical terminology, that is true. In history, you cannot go for technical terminologies, right? Whatever they have used in the past, you have to use it as it is. You cannot use your terminologies on basis of technicality. Historians cannot agree too on the extents to which they can make generalizations, right? On certain aspects, you cannot generalize the findings or generalize it. Even the historians cannot agree, right? History is life. So this is one sample study to give you to understand what is an historical research actually. See, this is the title of the study. A historical study of the growth. See the title and observe it carefully. Historical study of the growth and development of the elementary department of Colegio de San Juan de Latran Manila. Okay, that is the department name. Don't worry about it. Historical study on the growth and development of elementary department. 1971. We have given a time period 1971 to 2007, an initial attempt. This is the title. Okay. So what he is trying to find? The thesis aims. See the purpose and aim. The thesis aims to know the historical background of that particular department from the time it was established up to 2000, from 1971, that was establishing time, right, to 2001. It also attempted to trace the document the growth and development of the elementary department of the said school. It is trying to trace the document of the growth and development. There might be lots of documents, right? So from 1971 that school has started, right? So they are trying to trace the evidence from 1971. The findings is said to be develop implications to management. See, from the 1971, the method will be different. 81 method will be different. 91 method will be different. There will be changes. So based on these findings, the findings can be useful to the management of the particular department to take action to implement what is the best method, right? The study led to a conclusion after analyzing all the documents. This is only I am giving only the aim, purpose part and the conclusion part. That clear goals can help the success of the school. See, that was the findings. Based on the findings, he is concluding that clear goals can help the success of the school. That means the goals, whatever you are trying to do, is the goals should be proper. In our department, the goal should be the students should complete a degree, and students should clear net exam. Students should get a good job or pursue higher education. This is my goal. These are the goals. If the goals are clear, the success will be there. Simple. If the goals are not clear, if you don't know why you are studying, then you will not define what success is, right? Providing quality services, maintenance and motivational needs to students to ensure the best and delivery of educational service, and making every entity in the school feels that they are the stakeholder of the institution through participative planning and implementation and evaluation of all school programs. So based on the findings, we have concluded like this from the historical point of view. So I hope you understood what historical research is all about. So this is the references for used for preparing this particular presentation. So this is all about historical research. Thank you, man.